A good evening to you all, and thank you very much for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. We hope you had yourselves a very productive Tuesday. Now here's what's at the top of our edition tonight and the sneak peek at the headlines. Experts have noted that if Rwanda is to continue on the path of economic growth, efforts must be made to increase investment as well as exports. Young people with disabilities in schools commend the efforts made in fighting violence against them, but express concern over the limited access to technological tools that would enable them to enhance their skills and keep the pace at which their peers are at well. On the international scale, according to Nigeria Drug Enforcement Agency statistics, more than 14 million people in the country misuse drugs. We're glad to have your company coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. Kicking things off, experts have noted that if Rwanda is to continue on the path of economic growth, efforts must be made to increase investment as well as exports. Since 1994, the country's economy has been on an upward trajectory, with the value of locally produced goods having skyrocketed from $752 million to more than $4 billion. Over the years, the country's economic growth in general has also been very impressive, with spikes occurring such as in the second quarter of 2019 when it grew by as much as 12%. During the first quarter of this year, it grew by an impressive 9.7% despite the current global economic challenges. Key sectors have been playing a significant role in the growth, such as the service sector that contributed to as much as 46% to the country's GDP, agriculture with 25%, the industrial sector with 23%, and taxes accounting for another 7%. Parents who are in Rwanda have initiated the Parents Initiative on Autism, saying that raising a child with autism can have a significant emotional and psychological impact on the parents as well as the kids. Coping with diagnosis and managing the daily struggles of raising an autistic child can lead to psychological distress and high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression in parents. Enora Gladys has more on the report.
On the journey of raising awareness of autism, we still lack expertise in diagnostic facilities and specialized support services for autism spectrum disorder. Confirming that a child has autism requires expertise that calls for more interdisciplinarity. That is why the diagnosis requires not only educationists but also health and allied practitioners. Umutoni Larissa is the president of Rwanda Parents Initiative on Autism and tries to explain more concerning about the autism spectrum disorder. As someone who has 11 years of experience of having a child who has autism, autism is a disability that affects the brain, and someone who has autism has some different kinds of behaviors, the way they speak, and the way they collaborate with the others in the society. You find that it is a bit hard to live with them. People with autism have different symptoms, and they are always helped on a different ways. Male children are the ones predisposed to have autism than female children. These children have some super abilities because some of them go in mainstream schools and they even excel. Some of them can also teach themselves on their own some things like reading, but this happens when the treatment starts earlier. Rwanda Parents Initiatives on Autism calls upon all the government institutions in charge to collaborate together to improve the quality of life of children, and also adults with autism are able to achieve their full potential and live a decent life.
rero mu byifuzo byacu
Because the number of people with autism is rising nowadays, we highly suggest to the government that at least in every district there should be a center of autism with trained people about autism so that they can be helped. Jean-Paul Rwema is a pediatrician who specialized in autism. He says that generally autism is recognized at the age of 2 years old and 3 years old. He also says that boys are the ones exposed to have autism than female.
The reason why this ratio is 2-to-1, it is mainly due to the even genetically the way the behavior pattern, because autism spectrum disorder is a component or one of the disease or the pathology of developmental and behavior disorder. It is in this category of disorder. So the behavior component, behavior-wise, boys tend to be detected earlier than girls. Based on this, the way they manifest their behavior abnormalities rather than girls. Otherwise, there's no other genetic or environmental factors that would be making girls or boys to be more predominant than girls. This was one of the facts.
Dr. Jean-Paul also says that when autism is recognized earlier, it helps the child to get the help he or she needs on time.
The earlier you detect the issue, the earlier the best, the earlier the intervention you make to help this child to be able to perform some activities, we see improvement. That is what you asked me. Yes. There are many, because we said these children have brain. They have got brain. Their brain performs. So they have a way of the network of the neurons into the brain, they are networking. So they have ability to perform skills because they have got a brain. You asked me an example. I have several children I saw even in the school of Larissa's place. Children are performing very well music, playing piano, as the way you have never listened the kind of beauty music. I wish you could listen one. The children who are designer, who perform the designing, they make this kind of coloring things. They perform things. When they are detected earlier, they got the chance of being helped, and they discover the inner strength that they've got because.
Dr. Héritier Gashema is a gynecologist and a subspecialist in fetal medicine. He says that so far they cannot be able to predict that the baby will be born with autism, and that a mother cannot be blamed for giving birth to an autistic child.
Should not be blamed for having a baby with hearing loss. So it's not only for hearing loss. Most of babies with congenital abnormalities, moms are tending to blame themselves that they contributed to this, but this is, I can say, abnormalities that occurred in the womb when the baby is being formed. There is no contribution to a mother or a man. It just, I can say, to the way that people can understand it is when a man gives a spermatozoa and a woman gives an ovules, they will have a kind of transformation to make a man, a woman with all anatomical structures. So throughout those processes, there might be an error.
Early intervention is important. Not only giving children with autism the best start possible, but also the best chance of developing to their full potential. The sooner a child gets help, the greater the chance for learning and progress. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Enora, for that report. Young people with disabilities in schools commend the efforts made in fighting violence against them, but express concern over the limited access to technological tools that would enable them to enhance their skills and keep at the same pace with their peers. Olive Nete has more on the report.
Aline Wimana, a young girl from Gatiwa district, has lived with a physical disability for many years, leaving her unable to walk. Now using a wheelchair, she shared an emotional testimony about the kindness and support she has received from her peers. I was once a student, but in primary 3. I got sick and had to drop out of school. After leaving school, I felt really bad and had many troubling thoughts that made me feel sad. However, I later got the opportunity to return to school and play with other children again. Now, I'm happy and no longer in despair. My classmates help me in various ways. When I have homework, they help me revise along with the teachers. And whenever I have an issue, they assist me. Now all my classmates like me and want to sit with me, but the teacher doesn't allow it so that we can all focus on our studies. I'm doing well in my courses. In the first and third terms, I was first in my class. And even though I came second in the second term, I still achieved an overall score of 83%. One of the remaining challenges she faces is that if she doesn't have someone to assist her with her wheelchair, she ends up missing school. The road from home to school is stony, and sometimes my classmates are unable to help me, which results in me missing school. For young people in advanced levels who rely on technology in their studies, the lack of essential tools presents a major obstacle. Without these resources, they struggle to acquire knowledge comparing with their peers, which often limits their employment opportunities. First of all, I would advocate for people who are deaf and visually impaired. People with such disabilities need assistance throughout the entire education experience. For example, there is a person who cannot speak and is currently in university. This person faces many difficulties and is often left out, struggling to understand what is being taught. This issue is a significant concern for the National Union of Disability Organizations in Rwanda, as highlighted by its chairperson, Dr. Mukarwego Beth Nasifor. For people with various disabilities, accessing technology remains a significant issue due to the specialized tools required. For instance, individuals with disabilities often need specially designed computers and voice-guided features on smartphones to assist those with visual impairments. In rural areas, challenges like lack of electricity and internet access further complicate the use of these tools. Additionally, these tools are often few, expensive, and require support for acquisition and training. Without proper training, individuals may struggle to use these tools effectively and may forget what they have learned. Consequently, those with disabilities who lack access to these tools are often left behind in technological advancement, while those who have the necessary tools can keep up with their peers. However, hope remains that the technological barriers faced by young students with disabilities will be addressed through ongoing advocacy efforts. Ariane Dusenge, the country coordinator for the Make Way Consortium in Rwanda, working with NIDOR, expressed optimism about these efforts.
ntabwo twebwe dufite ubushobozi bwo kuvuga ngo tuje kugurira abantu telefone abantu bafite ubumuga bwo kutabona ngo bajye.
We are currently lacking the capacity to provide smartphones, for example, to visually impaired people, which are essential for accessing the applications they need. Our role is to unite our efforts, as it is up to them to advocate for their needs. Instead of pointing out their challenges, we focus on building capacity for people with disabilities. Some of these issues raised have already been addressed by the government, which shows that the Make a Way program, like other initiatives, partners with the government to ensure that no one is left behind. A study by Sharpen Jobs Limited reveals that only 6% of companies in the agriculture and production sectors employ people with disabilities, highlighting a significant gap in the employment opportunities for this group. Olive Nete, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Oli, for that report. Rwanda is set to host the Africa Food Systems Forum in Kigali from the 2nd to the 6th of September 2024. As the event approaches, AFS Forum Managing Director Amath Pathi Sen highlighted that this gathering will focus on discussing innovative solutions to address the challenges posed by climate change, which is a significant obstacle affecting the agricultural sector across the African continent. The forum aims to bring together experts, policymakers, and stakeholders to explore ways to enhance food systems and bolster resilience against climate-related issues in the agriculture sector.
At the same time, we've been also looking at it on how to improve business. So agriculture is business, food system is business, and we have to make sure that jobs that we want for young people, the continent is also, they are created, but they are decent for all the young who are looking for opportunities, and it's a sector that can create a lot of jobs, but feed also our continent. So these are things which we need to solve quickly, to focus more on other sectors like education, health, and also the sectors of creation, and also improving our growth with other sectors rather than just focusing on issues like food security, which we should really leave behind us. So that's why all these issues that we are facing, we need to solve it, and then really focus on other strategic sectors and also the transformation and the growth of the continent we want.
Members of the general public have commended the fact that the capacity and capabilities of community health workers are going to be increased, providing better services to their beneficiaries. 2 months ago, representatives of the community health workers from across the country met with the President of the Republic to discuss the challenges they face in their line of work and how they can be overcome. The President noted that capacity building among the health workers is something that cannot be delayed because of the importance of the work they do. Soon after that meeting, training was organized for the health workers countrywide, with their skills increasing to include the provision of first aid, as well as family planning advice and equipment in homes. The move is meant to reduce the workload on the country's health centers and hospitals and officials in the country of health, and noted that the number of community health workers here in Rwanda is to increase from the current 60,000 to 92,000 in the next 4 years. Every settlement in the country has currently 4 health workers dedicated to its residents. Preparations for the 2025 agricultural season is in high gear as RAB shares strategies to boost crop yields and overall agricultural output. We have the story coming from William Evans Mutabazi.
In just a few days, the 2025 agriculture season, also referred to by some as the long rain season, will begin in Rwanda. Currently, preparations for this season are well underway, both among the farmers and on the side of the government agriculture officials who are working together to increase productivity and overall agricultural output. Dr. Ndabamenye Teros Fall, the Director General of Rwanda Agriculture Board, shares on various initiatives for this year's agriculture calendar.
We have 2 messages. The one is land preparation, to make sure that all idle land, which was not used for the previous season, is cultivated. So this is one of the strategies to increase the production when you expand land under cultivation. So the second message is to bring on board the farmer and all the stakeholders to facilitate those farmers to access inputs. We have the basic inputs. The ones is seed and fertilizers. So once we have seed and fertilizers on time, and when you have to plant on time, we are expecting to have a good harvest. So what farmers should do now is to do registration in Smart Nkunganire system. It is a system which allows the farmer to access inputs on a subsidy. The government is providing around between 40 and 50% of subsidy for inorganic fertilizers, and around between 60 and 75% for improved seed. So for improved seed, we talk about hybrid maize, wheat, and soybeans. Foreign mineral fertilizers, we have NPK, DAP, and the others. So all of those fertilizers are on subsidy, and we encourage the farmers to register. Because when the farmers are registered into the electronic system, it helps the agro dealers to go to purchase the quantity of seed and the fertilizer that they need. This will speed up the distribution so that by the beginning of September, across the region, the whole country, most of the farmers will be having the inputs at home so that they start planting.
The overarching goal for many farmers in the country is to farm effectively, produce high yields, and improve their standards of living, while also accessing the markets for their produce, which is still a challenge. RAB's Director General says they are ready to fix the market issue, and this is how.
Working with the different ministries, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and then the Ministry of Local Government, and other key partners to fix those challenges so that we make sure those repetitions, those challenges do not come again. So the government will continue, of course, to secure the national strategic stock by buying some quantities of produce, but the private sector will continue also to buy the quantity of produce. But what we have to improve is regulation. How do we regulate the linkage between the producers and the buyers?
Land preparation in Nyagatare is estimated at 74%, while registration for agricultural input is at 76% as of today. Last agriculture season, the district produced an average of 4.99 tons of maize per hectare and has a target to increase productivity this year.
So the target is to really keep increasing productivity per hectare. We already know what we need to do to achieve this. What we need to do is planting, is land preparation and planting at the right time, and have all the inputs that we should be putting on, and then continue being close to the farmers to ensure that they do whatever they have to do appropriately according to the standards. So we think government has really been supporting us as farmers. So to the residents and us as the leadership of the district, we can only really commit to make sure that we make good use of what the government has been giving us to produce what is expected of us as a district.
The agriculture sector is a vital pillar of Rwanda's economy, with more than 69% of Rwandans engaged in farming or livestock activities. The most recent statistics released by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Minecofin, indicate that agriculture contributed 25% to the country's gross domestic product, GDP, in the first quarter of 2024. Reporting for RTV News, William Evans, Mutabaz.
And that VOA story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we wind up, let's have a quick recap of our headlines. Experts have noted that if Rwanda is to continue on the path of economic growth, efforts must be made to increase investment as well as exports. Young people with disabilities in schools commend the efforts made in fighting violence against them, but express concern over the limited access to technological tools that would enable them to enhance their skills and keep the pace with the peers. On the international scale, according to Nigeria Drug Enforcement Agency statistics, more than 14 million people in the country misuse drugs, some of which are children and teens. I'd like to thank you very much for sticking with us on RTV News. Stay safe and have a great night.